Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Before we even get into the news, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. I do reviews, news, tier lists, all that stuff, so be sure to check out the rest of the channel. But stay tuned to this video for now, because there's an interesting interview that happened recently. This comes from Eurogamer. I guess it's an interview with a Sega executive by the name of Osamu Ohasi, which according to this article, he is a division manager. I'm not really sure where in the hierarchy that is exactly, but in this interview with him, he goes on to share his thoughts about the plans for Sonic and the future for the franchise. And so let's go ahead and dive into some of this because there's some interesting points. So let's see. First, he says, simply put, I want to surpass Mario. That's a huge goal, and there's nothing wrong with said goal. I mean, obviously, Sonic and Mario, especially in the 90s, they were competitors. I mean, whenever Sonic came out, the reason Sonic came out was to compete with Mario. It was, to have that mascot look, and it was basically just to compete with Mario. And he even goes on to say that in this interview, Sonic was a game originally developed to compete with Mario, and we have yet to achieve that. Because we respect Mario, my goal is to catch up to and surpass him. And let's go ahead and pause right there because there's some interesting tidbits there. So, not only was Sonic originally developed to compete with Mario, which I think a lot of people knew that. But if you didn't know that, he goes on to say that basically that's where Sonic's origin began. But he also admits that they haven't achieved said goal, which honestly can be taken in a few ways. Because yes, Sonic was originally made to compete with Mario, and I think he actually did very well at competing with Mario, just the whole Genesis does what Nintendo don't ads really, solidified that Sega was, winning for a little bit at that time. But of course, in the end, Nintendo withstood the time, whereas Sega, well, they don't make consoles anymore, so we know how that went. But yeah, it's interesting that even just like the competition itself, he says that they didn't really achieve that aspect. Not even, we haven't even gotten to the surpassing of him. Just catching up to him and just competing with Mario has not been achieved. And you know what? I can kind of agree with that. At first I'm like, well, they were competitors. Now, I didn't really live through much of the 90s. I'm a 99s kid. So my exposure to Sonic was a bit different from those who actually grew up in the 90s and remember seeing these ads and know how it was between Sega and Nintendo and Sonic and Mario. Because we respect Mario, my goal is to catch up to and surpass him. Which again, for having that as a goal is very reasonable. Mario is a household name. Everyone knows who and what a Mario is. Even if you grab some random schmo off the street and ask him, hey, what is this Mario character? And it's like, oh yeah, that's Mario and Luigi or whatever, that plumber dudes. I'm like, yeah, that's basically them. Like, people just know this character. I like to think of Mario as the Mickey Mouse of the video game franchise. Everyone knows him and everyone basically loves him. Even if you don't enjoy Mario games, actually playing through them, you know somewhat of Mario, and there's this kind of respect, like, oh yeah, he's the reason video games are where they're at now, kind of thing. Like, I want to say everyone has that basic understanding of like, oh yeah, Mario's a big deal. And with his recent movie, it only solidified that Mario is a big deal.
I'm kind of a big deal.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie broke the record for having the largest ever opening weekend of any animated film, and it's even crossed $1 billion at the worldwide box office. That is crazy. The Sonic the Hedgehog 2 film did really great at the box office as well, but not Mario big. At the time, before the Mario movie came out, Sonic 2, that was huge in theaters. Okay, let's get back into the interview. Ohasi continued, we want Sonic to be played all over the world, including Japan, just like Mario. And we want the movie to be a bigger hit than Mario. We also want to build a Sonic attraction in Universal Studios Japan. That is my goal as a Sonic lover. Again, there's no surprise when it comes to the goals themselves. It's just kind of interesting that he mentions Mario, a huge mascot. In my mind, Sonic and Mario have always lightly competed. Of course, it's not like the 90s, how they were neck and neck, or, at least in terms of the advertising, they're coming after Nintendo and all that stuff. But I find it kind of weird that he says that he wants Sonic to be played all over the world, including Japan, which I feel like Sonic already is. Like, don't get me wrong, Mario is a bigger name in households than Sonic, but Sonic isn't too far off in my mind at the very least. I don't know, man, they're both huge mascots. Like, I feel like you could also take some random person off the street and ask them, hey, who's Sonic? And they'd be like, oh yeah, that fast blue guy. Like, that's, like, they're not wrong. Like, they're basically describing the character, like, oh yeah, he's that blue hedgehog, right? And it's like, yeah, basically. Especially with the movies and all that. Like, Sonic is in the mainstream. I feel like him and Mario have been huge icons for video games ever since they were created. I wonder if the Sega exec here is kind of hinting at the Mario Wonder versus Sonic Superstars sales going on in Japan. Because if I remember correctly, Mario Wonder is doing spectacular and it's far exceeding that of Sonic Superstars. So maybe that's why he's saying including Japan, because to be fair, I don't really know what Japan feels about Sonic. Obviously Sonic was born in Japan, but I feel like Sonic as a whole has been shifting its focus to the western side of the world, whereas Mario has stayed all across the world equally, if that makes any sense. Like, Mario is big in the west and the east, whereas Sonic, and this could be a western bias or whatever, but Sonic seems to be big over here, but maybe it's not big over in Japan. I don't know, it's tough to say, but having a brand new 2D Mario game in the style that every fan wanted to see the series go is a huge deal, and that's definitely what helped with the sales. If it was just a new series, then obviously it would have done really well because it's a 2D Mario, but it probably wouldn't have done as well. And maybe Sonic Superstars didn't visually grab Japanese audience or something. I don't know. It's very interesting that he mentions, including Japan. And he's not even talking about just the video games. He's wanting, bigger movies, he wants actual attractions for Sonic, which I honestly see that happening anyways. Like yeah, that's a goal, but I feel like that's a very tangible goal. You know what's not a tangible goal? Surpassing Mario. I just don't see Sonic surpassing Mario. I'm sorry, I don't. Again, Mario is the Mickey Mouse of video games. And while Sonic is huge, and I feel like everyday people will probably know Sonic as well, it's just not going to be the same as Mario. And especially because Sonic games are very inconsistent.
Something bugging?
You got some really good ones. You got, the adventure games. You got Sonic Advance. You got the original trilogy of Sonic. And then, you have Sonic Mania, which is amazing. But then you have games that are divisive, like Sonic Lost World, Sonic Boom, Sonic and the Secret Rings. Like, I could go on with Sonic of how, there's good games and then there's mediocre to bad games. And with Sonic's recent game, not Sonic Superstars, Sonic Frontiers, in my personal opinion, was, how do I say this? Not good. The world just doesn't fit with Sonic, and I know he's supposed to be out, into this weird new world that's realistic. I get that, but it just doesn't fit Sonic's image. It all feels very bland. The design of the worlds were fine at first, but then they got increasingly worse somehow. And then you have the cyber zones, which are okay at best. Again, personally, do not like Sonic Frontiers, and it just goes to show that consistently, Sonic has been up and down. Like, there's just no pinpointing if a Sonic game is going to be good or not. Now, I do like Sonic Superstars. I do have some issues with the game, but as a whole, I think it's a really, really good game. I like the multiplayer aspect, even though I think multiplayer for these 2D games, they need some work. They need some work, with the issues with cameras and stuff. But I think the game as a whole, I like the direction that they're going with. But again, the way Sega treats Sonic, it's so bizarre because the games are inconsistent. You have some that are mediocre and then you have some that are pretty good. But with Mario, even the worst Mario game, it's still a good game. Like the new series, everyone craps on the new series, and rightfully so because the art style is so oversaturated and basic and bland. But when you're looking at the level design and just the content in it, it's very polished and it's just a good series. Even though people, crap on it and stuff, it's still a good game. And I'm just talking about Mario's mainline games and Sonic mainline games. I'm not talking about their side projects here and there. No, just their mainline games. Mario has been so consistent at being at least good. Whereas Sonic, you just never know. So yeah, will Sonic ever surpass Mario? Probably not. I really don't see it. I think the Mario movie did an excellent job at capturing the world of Mario, whereas Sonic is still tied to this real world setting. And, his games is kind of in the real world setting. It's not really clear where he is, because sometimes Sonic will be running around with realistic humans, like Sonic 06 or the adventure games. But then you have Sonic sometimes with cartoon humans like in Unleashed. He's just kind of all over the place. And I really wish Sonic, instead of going live action, just take the Sonic franchise and make that all animated. You can keep the voice actors and stuff, but make an excuse of transporting Sonic and friends into a cartoon world similar to that of the Mario series. And then just go with that. I know people, and I even like the human characters in the Sonic movies, but I feel like the live action elements hold the series back from its true potential. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this interview. I think it's very interesting. I know I kind of bumbled around most of it because I'm not reading a script or anything, but let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. God bless.